Welcome to Satsang. Starting as usual with a question that's come in advance, we'll then open it up to any question that anyone here has. Is there truly a right way or a wrong way to do things? Or is everything just a teaching opportunity? Yes and yes. Yes, there is a right way. And yes, everything is a learning opportunity. When we look at the right way, though, it's not the way that most of us think. So when most of us think of a decision, for example, or a choice we have to make, and our minds are going crazy trying to figure out the right decision, the right choice, the criteria that most of us use have to do with, for example, which way is going to make me more successful? Which way is going to take me further ahead? Which way is going to have a bigger impact or give me more money or more popularity or more respect? Achieve my goals. That's not the right way that I'm talking about. Because in situations like that, it really has much more to do with just how you are in whatever situation you end up deciding to choose. You know, people pull their hair out, like which university or which graduate school or which program or which job or which city to live in. And I'm not saying these are small, unimportant decisions, but in the scheme of things, in terms of our life, it's not so much about what as it is about who. As in, who is the being, who is the you, who has chosen this university over that one, or this job over that one, or this city over that one. Because whoever the you is, your awareness of, your experience of you, is what's actually going to bring you the real success in any of these situations, the real happiness in any of these situations. So it's a much more of a matter of who and how. How do you live in that university, in that job, in that city, in that marriage? So with those sorts of choices and decisions, think more about who and how than about what. And yet, that doesn't mean that there's not a right way and a wrong way. But again, it's not about the university or the graduate program or the city or career or job. It has to do with how conscious we are in every moment. So it goes back to how. Right way and wrong way has to do with how. How are we living? Are we actually present in each moment? Do we show up in that moment with love, with truth, with full presence and awareness and consciousness? Or are we in that moment on autopilot? Are we in that moment in a role objectifying ourselves, objectifying the other people? That would be the wrong way. The right way would be to show up with full presence, full truth, to tap into who you are And can you bring who you are to each moment? That's what makes it the right way. It may be a difficult moment. It may be a decision that you made that you regret. But can you show up in that moment that isn't what you wanted, that isn't what you were expecting, a moment in which the universe has let you down in some way? Can you show up with presence, with love, with truth, with the fullness of yourself? And if so, that is the right way. And similarly, you could be in a perfect external situation. You could be doing everything right externally. Getting the success, getting the money, getting the acclaim, getting all of that. But if you're not really present and conscious, if you're not showing up in that moment with love, if you're not asking in that moment, what can I bring to this moment? Well, that's what we would call the wrong way. So, again, it's not about the what as it is about the how. So whatever decisions you are making, obviously, make them in alignment with your values, your ethics, your dharma. But then, in every single moment, remember to show up. The moment will be gone. The moment will come and go whether you were there or not. The days will come and go whether you were there or not. The years of your life will come and go whether you show up in them or not. When people look back over their lives, you never hear people saying, God, I wish I had worked harder at my job and made more money. God, I wish I had, more employees and more power and had opened up more franchises. You hear people saying things like, I wish I had loved more. I wish I had been present more. I wish I had not been so distracted. I wish I had not been so stressed. I wish I had not been so negative or judgmental or critical. I wish I had embraced the moment. So, show up each moment, in that moment, fully. Here we are. All of us. Not just all of us here collectively, but all of that which I consider me. All of it. Show up with it all. The attention, the intention, the focus, the heart, the truth, consciousness. Bring it all to the moment. And then you'll find, even if you discover that you made what you later realize is not a right decision, that it actually becomes a good decision because you end up learning so much from how you have to show up in what you decide was a wrong decision. But you show up anyway, and it becomes a very good moment, a very good experience. Other questions? Yes. He's coming from behind you with a mic. Yeah. On नहीं है क्या?
Namaskar. As you said, in the past, we look at the past and we see we wish you could do this.
Can you hear her in the back? No.
Okay. So, as you said, when we look at the past and we think we wish we could do this way, and I feel like I was sleeping in the illusion of Maya. And how when we wake up from this illusion of Maya, how one can find the purpose of life.
When we wake up from the illusion of Maya, how do we find the purpose of our life? Well, the purpose of all of our lives is the same on the highest and also most fundamental levels, which is to experience the truth of who we are. That's what we've been told. It's what we've been told in all of our scriptures. The reason that we take a human birth, and the reason that a human birth is seen as the pinnacle, the highest point of evolution, is because only as humans are we able to be conscious of our own self. Other species don't, it is believed, have that ability to be conscious of themselves, to be able to look and to say, I know I look like a bear, but I'm not a bear. I am soul in the form of a bear. It's believed that they don't have the capacity to have that awareness. But as humans, we have the ability to distinguish between a body which I have, but a body which I am not. The awareness that I am something that isn't the physical body, that I am something other than the chemicals of hormones or neurotransmitters that flood my brain and my body in signals, in what we call thoughts or memories or emotions or instincts. We have the capacity to understand I am not that. Yes, my physical brain is being flooded with chemicals that create a pattern of behavior that we call anger, or that we call sadness, or that we call lust, or that we call sleepiness, or whatever it may be. But I am not that. I am not anger. I am not sadness. I am not the reactions of chemicals and electricities in the neurons of my brain, any more than I am the chemicals secreted by my adrenal glands sitting on my kidneys. Like, it's not who I am. It's just an aspect of the physical body. And because humans have the capacity to understand that, we have the capacity then to meditate upon, who am I? Not this, not that. And to become aware of the fact that I am the one who's able to be aware, the one who is able to be conscious. And we keep going deeper. So first I watch myself and I say, I'm angry. And then I go deeper and I realize, okay, I'm not angry. Anger is just the pattern of electricity and chemicals in the brain. And we say, I am the one aware that there is this pattern of anger happening. But then we go deeper and we say, I am the one aware that I am aware that anger is happening. And then you start to be able to go even a step farther and be that presence that experience of undivided consciousness, from which I know that I am aware, that I am aware, that I am watching anger happen. And we just get deeper and deeper, more and more unhooked from that which is changing in the physical form, and more anchored in a presence that is constant, even though that which I am present with keeps changing. It's like if I sit here and each of you come up one by one after satsang and meet me. Well, I'm just present. You people are going to keep changing, right? You'll come up one by one, and now I will be present with each of you. But I'm just present. What I am present with is changing. One moment I'm present with you, and then I'm present with you, and then I'm present with you. But I am just here present. In the same way, we start to be able to tap into an experience of awareness in which what I am aware of is changing. What I am present with is changing. I am present with chemicals flooding the brain and the body that you could call biologically a stress response. But I am not stress. I am just present with a biological experience in a physical body that could be labeled stress response. And then a short while later, I am present with an experience in body and in brain that could be labeled sleep. Or that could be labeled happiness, or whatever it might be. Could be labeled busyness, activity. But I'm just present with it. And we start to identify as that presence that is just here, even though that which I am present with keeps changing. But you began perfectly, which is we first have to get unentangled from Maya. Because otherwise I think I am angry. I am furious. I am so happy. I am really sad. I am afraid. I'm starving. I'm sexually aroused. I am sleepy. I am this. I am that. And that's the illusion. So you get disentangled from that. And then you start to be able to drop very, very deep into actually what you are, which is soul, spirit, divinity. But we get to that through an experience of being not that which is happening, then being aware of all of that. So I am the awareness, and then deeper the consciousness of it. And then that unbroken, undivided oneness with supreme consciousness, you could say. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
I've been reading your book and so moved, many reasons. One, the American connection. I'm American here, first time in India, and came here searching for something. I did not know what. And the clarity you received, right? The voice you heard so distinctly. What if you don't hear a voice, or you don't see a sign or hear a sign? What to do in the meantime, before that clarity comes to you?
The universe doesn't always speak to us in an actual human-sounding voice that tells us something in our language of origin. Yes, it did happen to me at a very pivotal moment when I came to Rishikesh and walked through this ashram and heard a voice that said, "You must stay here." But remember, I was in a position in my life, a time in my life in which I wasn't listening. I always say God had to hit me over the head with a baseball bat. People talk about the touch of God. And I very well may have been touched more gently in previous days. But because I wasn't listening or open to it or seeking on any level that I was aware of, it needed to be so undeniable, so unignorable, so unrationalizable, that I really didn't have any possible option other than to listen to it. So yeah, I heard a voice that said, "You must stay here." But that's not only is that not always how it happens, that's not usually how it happens. If you look at nature, and for me, I always take teachings from nature. Everything in nature seems to get wisdom in different ways. You look at how a caterpillar somehow knows to climb a tree and weave a cocoon and then burst out as a butterfly. You look at how a tree knows not to grow up, but to grow sideways. Those trees, if you spend time in the forest, which I love to do, you'll always see that even though most trees grow up, every once in a while you'll find a tree growing horizontal to the ground. Every other tree's growing straight up. But this one somehow understood when she was still quite young, quite close to the ground, that if she grew straight up in the sky, she wouldn't get the light that she needed for photosynthesis in order to properly grow. That her light was going to be sideways, that she needed to actually move horizontally out of the denseness of where she was in order to get light. How does she know? I don't know, but she knows. Different species, all the different species of animal, even those who were left by their mothers at very, very young critical ages, somehow they know. How does a bird know how to build a nest? I mean, just think about it for a moment. Mother birds leave their baby birds when they're babies. That baby grows up. How does she know how to build a nest? How does she know to sit on an egg? She doesn't have any past life knowledge of, oh yeah, when I was in the egg, I remember. The, in utero consciousness here. They don't have that. How does she know? Again, I don't know. Other than to say, there is a wisdom in the universe. And the creator of this universe, however we may think of him, her, it, they, whatever, concept we connect to for that divine capital P planner of the universe was sure to make sure that every single being had that intelligence in it. And so to me, it's inconceivable that as humans we wouldn't have that. And so all I can tell you is that if that wisdom is in caterpillars and trees and every other species on this planet, it's in us. I think the dilemma is that we perhaps are the only species whose minds are so full of our own ego that it's really hard to figure out what is the voice of that wisdom. I can't imagine that a caterpillar's mind is so full of other stuff, or that a tree is also getting, in addition to the wisdom to grow sideways, that she's also getting all kinds of nonsense signals that say, God, did you see that one? He's so much bigger than you are, so much more beautiful. I bet your fruit is going to be bitter and small and shriveled. You know, trees don't get signals like that. So they're able to take the signals that come and live by them. And to me, that really shows the way for us to hear those voices in whatever way they come. Whether actually as a clear, booming voice, or just as what you would call an intuition. A sense of knowing that you don't know how you knew. And I think the way is simply to clear away the other voices. Rather than searching for that voice, to just clear away the other voices so you can hear it. And that's what the practice of meditation does so well, is it really helps us gain clarity on self and not self. True self and yammering voices in my head. You start to really be able to distinguish that which is coming up from within and that which is just like a broken record playing from the neurons in your brain as you've been programmed. And so allow your practice to be one that's focused on achieving a degree of stillness and quietness and spaciousness in which you can hear and feel. And the last point of that I think is important is also trust. You know, I always say you never see a butterfly crawl back down the tree because she doesn't believe she can actually fly. You know, she comes out of the cocoon but still identifies as a caterpillar, and so, you know, kind of backs her way down the tree. You never see it. There is a faith somehow that all of nature has that doesn't second guess itself, that doesn't doubt itself. And if you can find that faith, so when you hear the voice in whatever way it comes, when you feel the intuition in whatever way it comes, to trust it and to go with it. And you'll develop what we call a sanskara, a pattern of trusting. And you may start small, and then you'll go into bigger and bigger things. But just start trusting it. Start using your intuition instead of always doing pros and cons lists. They're great. I love them. I do them personally. But instead of always doing them, sometimes just allow yourself, just tune in. What's my intuition say? And go with it. It's scary for those of us who are overly rational, but it will strengthen a muscle that you already have. And it'll train you to hear it and to listen to it and to start following it. And then it'll get louder. When you're listening, it gets louder. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Actually, the book that you have written has somehow reached me in a manner that as if I was meant to read it. And every time I had a particular question and the kind of chapters I read, it was as if it was just talking to personally to me. And the chapter that you had, which was on the womb of the mother, where you wrote about going to Gomukh, was especially, I got goosebumps when I was reading it. My question is, how did this happen that I reached that book? I read your story in a manner, and why am I so drawn now to this whole space?
It's beautiful. Could you hear her question in the back? Could you hear her in the back? You could hear her. Okay, great. The universe gives us what we need. If we're open to it, if we trust that sense of intuition, in a bookstore, what to read, not necessarily what everybody I know is reading, but what is it that speaks to me? And then as you read, or as you listen to something, or as you watch something, to allow it to see, is this meant for me in some way? Or is this just mindless entertainment and distraction? And to be able to distinguish and to discriminate between that which is actually meant for me and that which is mindless. And then to stay open. You know, I always believe very deeply that the universe sends us exactly what we need when we need it. And of course, that's not just my belief. I mean, this is what our sages and saints and rishis have always told us. Whatever we need is there. Albert Einstein said there's only two ways to live, believing that either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And I definitely fall in the everything is a miracle camp. And to realize that whatever you're being sent is in your life for a reason. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that in reading my book, it came into your hands at that time, at the time that was right for you. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that in reading it you find yourself then drawn here. That's why we read. I mean, we've gotten into such a habit of just distraction and entertainment that we actually forget the reason that art and music and literature was created. It wasn't created to just distract us and give us something to do at the end of the day when we're tired and have a headache. The arts and culture were always a huge part of society, seen as a very critical part of society because they touch us on a very deep level. They open us up to realms of experience that we otherwise never would have. They're meant to touch us. It's why throughout most of history, up until really recently, artists, poets, musicians actually had patrons, like well-to-do people in society, would financially support the musician, the painter, the poet, so that that person could just dive into their art because their art was seen as providing great benefit to the society. It's only been, in the last 100 years or so that it's shifted much more into just entertainment and distraction, and so it's gone from being something that was an offering to touch people, to open people, to broaden their experiences, their minds, their hearts, into something that's just about shock value and, violence and sex and whatever it is that's going to make money or distract us or entertain us. So, to choose books, to choose music, to choose film that's going to touch you and enrich you and open you is very beautiful. And then to allow yourself to be touched and opened and enriched is the whole point. So I'm very glad that you've been touched by it. I always say that even though the physical journey of Hollywood to the Himalayas was the journey that my physical body took, that ultimately the reason I wrote the book and the whole point is that that journey in the mind and the heart from the Hollywood way of thinking and identifying to the Himalayan way of thinking and identifying is the shift that brings about an end to suffering. And that's a shift that's for everybody, regardless of where your body is. So I'm very, very touched and very glad to hear that. And it's not surprising to me at all because the universe has a plan. There was a plan in making me spend all of the time it took to write it. There was a plan in getting it into your hands. So, welcome. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And so much love to you all.